Hi, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to First Church, First Center in New York. Welcome to our Louise Hay class. Most of you know that you're learning about self-healing when you come here in all of our activities. Louise Hay presented these types of lessons. What you may or may not know about Louise Hay is Louise was a New Thought teacher. And I say that because not everybody knows what New Thought is. New Thought is a spiritual movement that started in the 19th century in the United States. It emphasizes the power of the mind and the spiritual nature of human beings. It's based upon the belief that our thoughts and beliefs have a direct impact on our lives and that they can shape our experience. New Thought teaches that each person, every one of us, has the ability to create our own reality, and that we can manifest our desires and aspirations by aligning our thoughts with this one inner positive energy or source. New Thought also emphasizes the importance of our personal responsibility in healing, and that we always have power available to us. This power, we say is in us, it's around us, and it's operating through our consciousness. So we don't pray to a God outside of ourselves that's far off. We come to understand spectacularly that we have this power right here, right now, operating in us and through us. New Thought has influenced many prominent spiritual leaders and writers, including Louise Hay herself, who was a student here at First Church in New York. She used New Thought principles in her teaching on self-love and healing, and she inspired people, millions of people around the world. At our church, at our center here in New York, we can continue to carry on the teachings of New Thought and of Louise Hay, and helping people to live happier, more empowered, and fulfilling lives. I'm going to say this because you may not know it about yourself. If you're resonating to this teaching and if you're applying the principles, you are a New Thought student yourself. Some people might say we are truth students. These are words that I learned along the way myself. And so we are people who work with consciousness. We work with our own consciousness because we know that our consciousness is shaping our life. We're learning about self-healing. This is our Thursday class, and most of our lessons are centered around, again, self-healing principles taught by Louise and Ernest Holmes and select others. Ernest Holmes wrote the textbook. He often stated that we, in this teaching, are open at the top. Ernest was very ahead of his time. He didn't think the answer was to be found in churches, Science of Mind churches or other churches. What he was always talking about and teaching was that we have the ability to have a direct experience of this divine. This thing that we're looking for is within us. And through the teaching of the Science of Mind, he would keep reminding you that you have this power. It's available to you for you to use. It's greater than you, of which you're a part, and you can use it. So Ernest said our teaching is open at the top, indicating that we don't have dogma. And in a very similar way, he was open to, similar to Louise, he was open to different healing modalities. Both of them taught that we have the power to heal, we have the power to transform our consciousness, we have this inner power. Most of you know Louise Hay was, again, a practitioner of First Church. This is where we are. And she took her classes here and she received her training here to be a practitioner of this teaching. She studied Ernest Holmes and she learned about affirmative prayer, or what we used to call treatment here. We have been teaching New Thought since 1949, and we still are. The presentation styles have changed over time. We appear to be less religious, more spiritual. We're not, again, bound by dogma. A good number of New Thought students from the 60s, 70s, and 80s became ministers out of many of the small groups that used to exist in the country. Louise Hay did not go into ministry in any traditional sense, in that she didn't try to have a community or a building or find any of that necessary to do the work she wanted to do. She had a much bigger vision as how she wanted to bring the teaching into the world. As we look back, we can now see that she reached over 100 million people in many languages, always teaching these same principles that we present every week, and commenting that everyone has the ability to heal. So whatever your life predicament is right now, whatever your challenge is, you have the ability to heal. You have the ability to transform your life. You have the ability to heal your life. The name of her book was, in fact, You Can Heal Your Life. And like Ernest Holmes, she was attempting to show people that they themselves have the power to change their lives, heal their lives, and that the conditions that are in your life, in and of themselves, have no consciousness. You have consciousness, so while you might have brought the condition in energetically, you also have the ability to heal it. You're always going to be greater than the conditions in your life. Most people have no real idea of the ability that they have or the power that they have. They don't have any true sense of their self-worth. It's mind-boggling, the power that any one person has. Someone said to me about 40 years ago that it's the universe's will for you to be happy, joyous, and free. And I've been thinking about that for at least 4 decades. And it strikes me just as true now that the universe, is conspiring. It's a conspiracy of good. We're all evolving towards light and love. We're becoming more and more of what it is. And we're learning, and we have many lessons. And sometimes it's been painful, but all of it's there for us. Not to say that you have to learn everything through pain. You can learn, through paying attention. You don't have to make every mistake. You can observe. But some of us are slow learners, and we make lots of mistakes. I was told in fun many years ago, don't die dumb. And that was from a very good teacher. And what he was trying to say is you don't have to make all the mistakes. You can learn from some of the ones you've made before. So let's go with the idea that the universe's will for us is to be happy, joyous, and free. We came into this world with a lot to learn and to experience. And one of our goals is to be happy, right? And to be free and to be alive. Again, to be free. We could read a lot from Emerson. He will talk about, finding our voice and finding that, that incredible thing that's you, and let it be free, and to be alive, and to be who we really are. So we're here to wake up to who we are, and to learn how to express ourselves authentically and be happy. Most of us who are on this call have leveled up a degree or transformed quite a bit already, or done some work on themselves, and you're already experiencing more harmony in your day-to-day living. And some of you are here because you just really want to change. You're at a place where energetically you're saying to yourself, is enough? You're saying enough is enough. I've been through this too many times. I'm just sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that's a good place to be too. Because if you're at a place where you're really clear that I don't want this anymore, right? Well, you're a powerful being. If you really don't want to have a certain set of things to keep on going a certain way, you make a strong demand on consciousness that you want and you expect something better. There's great power in those kinds of decisions. So you may have said to yourself, I've had it. I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to have a better type of experience, and you will. You've come to a point where you realize that you're sick and tired of it all, and you're sick and tired of being in these lower and reactive places in consciousness. where you're finding yourself losing your temper and giving your power and peace away. It's like gotcha, gotcha and gotcha. By that I mean you find yourself, here I am reacting again, and then again and again. It gets to be like too much. And you might be dismayed because you've been doing well for a week or two, and you've really been trying to practice this teaching, and then you find yourself, something happens, and you let yourself get triggered, and you're off to the races. And it's disappointing when that happens, especially when you're doing all your affirmations and meditations, and you're doing your energy work, and you're keeping the high watch. And by that I mean you're careful, you're being the guardian at the gate. And then comes this thing out of the blue that gets your attention, and next thing you know, it's not pretty. And that's, again, it's disappointing when it happens, because these things come in quickly. Sometimes it happens in an instant. There's an anger, hurt, fear, and then a big reaction. And I know that this happens a lot with people. It happens with me too. And maybe, certainly not as much as it might have at a different point in my life, but it happens. And I can tell you, I know how disappointing it can be. And this is where compassion comes in, because Louise was always talking about compassion for self. Never, never, never criticize yourself. When you find you're acting like, whatever you want to call it, when you're doing something or you're acting in a way that's very disappointing, please don't beat yourself up on top of it, because that would just, as she would say, you're digging yourself in deeper then. This is where you want to have more compassion. So we're learning always to be the guardian at the gate of our own consciousness and monitor the conversation that's going on within. If you haven't yet perfected the art, and I don't know who really has, but you're really working on having a healing consciousness. Where you get to a point where you're operating more and more from a place of peace and contentedness. We get to a place where nothing really bothers us too much, and we're refusing to create a world where everything and everyone is against us. You can definitely get there, but it does require being mindful and paying attention. It won't happen. You remember the show Bewitched? It won't happen by twitching your nose. It doesn't work quite that quickly. It requires more of us. It requires daily mindfulness, daily knowing, daily affirming, daily releasing. We do a lot of affirmations. I affirm I'm whole and complete. I affirm all is well. I affirm there's a divine pattern of health operating in me and through me now. And we release the need for this, that, and the other thing. And so that's the kind of thing it requires, being mindful and working on our affirmations and working on our releasing. And it'll work a whole lot faster if you spend a little bit more time in the first step of affirmative prayer, which is centered all around the realization. How will I language it today? It's centered all around the realization that there is, that God is, okay, or this power is. If you can center yourself and quiet yourself and let yourself contemplate that there is this universal power, and it's a presence, and it's in me right now. If you can do that and bring yourself to an awareness that you have this power, and you say it's in me right now, and then start doing your affirmations. Your affirmations are going to take on, they're going to have more power because you're coming from a place of self-realization. And then what you're going to say is going to be more connected. And the same thing when you're doing your releases. These types of daily practices remind yourself that all is well and that you're one with the one. So if you have a daily practice, it will definitely help you. Tuning in regularly here on Thursdays and Sundays. And Jimmy's been doing a good introduction in our Creative Living series on Wednesday nights. Any of these activities can be very helpful because it's just a time for you to plug in and remember. So tuning in and being a part of a community can be helpful. Sometimes you'll hear the perfect thing from one of the people sharing after the lesson. If you learn to stay plugged in into a healing conversation like any of these, it helps a lot. Sometimes it helps to listen to them a second time or more on Facebook or YouTube. The goal is to stay connected, stay mindful. If you do this, you're not going to stay stuck. If you get out of the loop, I've had students before, really good students, they get out of the habit of attending, and they'll resurface 6 months later, a year later. And I'll say, how things been going? And they say, well, things were really going okay in the beginning. I got too busy, but lately everything's gone to hell. So what I just suggest to everyone is just stay plugged in, tuned in. It's like it's like an insurance premium, just tune in, it'll pay big dividends for you. Today we're talking about doing whatever we need to do to maintain this sense of connection and being happy. We have tools in this teaching to heal ourselves and to heal our emotions. And whatever comes into our life, we heal it by means of our consciousness. One thing to understand is whatever is in our life, we've drawn to us because of our consciousness, because of our awareness. You can think of your consciousness as the totality of what you know. It's your subconscious, it's your conscious mind. And what you know is reflected in your world. It's like a mirror. And the other thing is whatever you're thinking about all the time and focused upon, it's like a magnet to you. So I oftentimes talk about, if you walk around with this consciousness that the sky is falling and everything's wrong and it's full of fear, that tends to draw these fearful things to you. So we do our work always in consciousness. We have the ability to transform the conditions in our life by means of our consciousness. We can be happier. We can learn to get happy. But you must first want to be happy. I have a passage that I want to share from the Course in Miracles, which starts, "The peace of God or Source is my one goal, my purpose. The peace of God is my one goal, my purpose, and my life." That emphasizes the importance of recognizing that true peace or happiness can only be found by connecting with our inner divine nature. Yes, true happiness and peace can only be found by connecting with our own inner divinity or source. It's there, but we have to learn to connect with it. You could say, I recognize, I know, I realize it's here within me now. It's been called the best kept secret of the ages. So we want to continually remind ourselves that this power is here. I recognize it, I know it, I feel it, I sense it, that it's here now within me. If I'm looking for happiness and contentness and peace, again, it's only going to be found by realizing, that by realizing and connecting with this source that is within us, and having the willingness and the courage to release any of the things of the ego that we're hanging on to, the illusions. By making the peace of God and our connection with this source our goal and our purpose, we open ourselves up to higher consciousness and a deeper understanding of the world around us. This passage has helped me for a lot of years, reminds me to keep staying focused on the inner connection and seek inner peace above all else. And happiness is going to be a natural result of this. So you can say to yourself, the peace of God is my one goal, or the love of God is my one goal. My purpose, my function in my life. My connection with this is the truth of my being. I recognize it, I know it, I connect with it, and I know it's there always. Each of us are one with this healing power and source, intelligence. If you stay with it and you stay with this kind of conversation, and you consider the ideas we talk about most Thursdays and Sundays, you'll start to engage more and more in this type of thinking. You realize that you can change your thinking, and as a result, you can change your life. Ralph Waldo Emerson played a big role in the development of New Thought. He wrote, "We're born into a strange time, a time that tries our souls." And when he was writing that, it was 1897, and I had to figure out what was going on in those years. In the 1890s, the new tech of the 1890s was electricity, right? Edison. And soon after, it didn't take long, there was a telephone, there was a movies, and all kinds of stuff. So it was a very tumultuous time because there were social changes going on, political changes going on, labor unions going on, the women's suffrage movement going on. It was a time of near chaos. Much like today, there was a departure from everything, they were moving way from traditional religious beliefs even then, and all these factors could have contributed to people having a sense that life was spiraling out of control. You might say we're going through something similar now. So it was a strange time back in the 1890s that tried their souls. And here we are some 130 years later in the 2020s thinking, gosh, we're born into a strange time, a time that tries our souls too. Human knowledge was getting ahead of people in 1897. And in the 2020s, I don't even know what to say. It's beyond that, right? Who could have ever predicted in 1997 Google would have been a thing? But Google's been such a big thing, it's just turned the world upside down. And that's been the past 20 years. In the past year, we've got artificial intelligence. And whatever Google has been for the past 20 years, artificial intelligence is going to be a whole heck of a lot more in the coming decade or two. So it's a strange time. We can expect to see significant changes in every area of life, in our jobs. Everything's going to be revolutionized. How we work, how we create everything. It'll have an impact on education, healthcare, transportation, and most of it's going to be very, very good. We can expect to see significant advancements in all kinds of places. So we have a lot to look forward to. So going back to what Emerson was saying, we're born into a strange world, and how do we grapple with it when things are moving so quickly? Where do we put ourselves in a world that's constantly changing? One suggestion Raymond Charles Barker, our founder here in New York, said, we are a today people. Now, that wouldn't matter if it were 1897 or it was 2023. We are today people. We're not a yesterday people. People with churches and spiritual centers try to make them like they used to be. That's a very failed strategy. Okay, we learned that back 5-6 years ago. We were studying evolving churches, and we absolutely knew that the brick and mortar churches were closing up shop. So we are today's people, and life is moving forward. Just with the examples of Google and artificial intelligence, you can think about your whole life has changed because of these things. Maybe you don't think about these things, but life is forever, ever changing. And it's going to be speeding up a lot more in the next decade or so. And that's really exciting. If you are a today person, like Barker said, if you are, as we say, open at the top, if you're open, period, we want to be here at the center, because otherwise we won't be here. We think if Ernest Holmes were here today that he would be open. Even for those of you who have your Christian roots, Jesus is claimed to have said, these things and greater you will do too. So we're always going to be moving forward. And I think if we're healthy, we should expect it. I hate to use the word should, but it is something that you would you know, okay, life is moving forward and I want to be a part of it. We want to say yes to life. We want to enthusiastically say yes to life. We want to let go of yesterday. If you really want to heal your life, you really want to let go of yesterday, you want to be here now, be here today. And say to yourself, this is from Louise herself, I trust in the process of life. We have a constant and new thought that will bring you comfort and happiness. It's called principle. It's one of the things I drummed into the ministers. We have this divine principle. It was an exam question for most ministers. You know, what do you tell your students? Well, they told me the thing you need to do as a minister is go out there and get really excited about divine principle. And the idea behind that is you have this power in you that's responding to you and it will never fail you. Okay, and that's the thing I will say to all of us tonight, even as we're going through every kind of change in our personal life and in our lives in general. You have this unfailing principle within you, God within you, God in you, that's responding to you all the time. So we have this principle operating through us. We're saying that we have creative intelligence that's in us and it's responding to us. It doesn't have a choice. It's what it does. One thing's for certain in a world that's rapidly changing is that life is still responding to us. Each of us have the ability to adapt, to change and grow, to be happy. It's not too late. It's never too late. Please don't lament about who's gone. Please don't lament over what is gone. My suggestion is to get very excited about what is, to get very excited about what is within you. My suggestion is to get very excited that life is presenting you so many wondrous things to experience, to observe, and participate in. Get excited about the wonderful things that are everywhere present, and that life responds to every thought you think. For us to have this kind of exciting life and experience, you know, and have this type of positive expectancy, we want to begin to let go of anything that represents a rigid old thinking or a loop, anything that doesn't serve us. Ask yourself, wherever you can take a pause, ask for guidance, because it'll always be there. Ask yourself, what's the most self-loving thing you can do? And you'll always have an answer. The answer is always there. Guidance is always there, always available. This power for good, it's everywhere present. It's within you, operating through you, all around you, responding to you. This is an ancient law that will never, ever, ever change. When everything else is changing, this is something that will never change. It's a spiritual axiom. God in you, responding to you. It's always going to be there, and it's always going to respond. It's called by different things, the law of cause and effect. It's called the law of correspondence, the law of attraction. Whatever it is that's going on within us, it's always in operation. And whatever we're contemplating all day and living within us shows up in our life. Remember always that the universe is responding to you. Please get this in if you can. Say to yourself, the universe is responding to me. And because you know that, I want everyone to remember the phrase, be the guardian at the gate. Because you know you have power and you know the universe is responding to you. Learn to be the guardian at the gate. Learn to cancel the things that don't serve you. It's your responsibility to let go of the fearful thoughts and the negativity. And you can definitely do this. People now spend a ton of time on social media. Social media, whatever you're tweeting about, posting and thinking about, you're going to have a tendency to manifest the same way. If you're dwelling on negativity, you're going to bring in negativity. If you're learning to be a positive person and seeing the God, the good in everything, you're going to have a tendency to demonstrate what's wonderful and good. So we want to take into account, we want to be mindful of where we're consuming our time, where we're putting our attention. If you're watching a lot of TV and if it's negative, then do something about that. you know, pay attention to where you put the quality, of your energy, what you tune into. We want to remember the importance and the value of self-discovery and listening to the conversation that's going on within us. See, within you have everything, and it's like a lot of people just do everything to drown that out. But if you can learn to take the pause and learn to listen and ask direct questions, the universe always answers. And Louise Hay would say every thought we think is creating our future. I think I'm going to correct Louise in a way, not that I'm trying to, but it's really the tendency of our thinking that's creating our future. See, it's not the one thought so much. It's just, if you have a tendency of thoughts that are negativity, that are negative, then it's going to shape your experience, I promise you. An isolated thought by itself, not so much, but if you tend to be very critical and negative, it shows up. You're not going to be attractive to people. You're going to experience a lot of the things you're looking for, you won't receive if you carry the burden of all this stuff. So we want to release this. So everyone, let's be mindful of the tendency of our thoughts and be the guardian at the gate and realize that you can do it. Louise oftentimes said it's like cleaning a house. You begin wherever you are, and just one room at a time, one place at a time. And there definitely will be a quickening. Things will start to get better quickly for you. We ask the question every Thursday night, what's it been like being you this week? What condition is your condition in? This is from an old song. What has it been like being you? Have you been nurturing a lot of negativity? Have you been giving your power away to everyone or anyone? If you've been nurturing negativity, then you don't have to do anything. But the suggestion would be, or the question would be, if I were your therapist, how's that working out for you? Are you happy with it? You can heal your life. You can change your life. So, what's it been like being you? Okay. You can go back to that thing from the Course in Miracles. The peace of God, the happiness of God, the joy of God is my one goal, my purpose, my function, and my life. You could see peace instead of whatever it is that you've been entertaining. So all power is yours. You get to decide. So what's it been like? And when I ask that question, I'm not wanting anybody to beat themselves up over. It's just like, be honest with yourself. If you've been really critical or you've been down on yourself or down on other people, then find a way within yourself to let that go. And forgive the other person if there's another person involved, saying, as I'll say, say they are doing the best they can with the information, the understanding, and the awareness that they have. And so this is self-compassion when you learn to let go of all this stuff. Never criticize yourself and release the need to criticize others. So we have a tendency to think a long time about the things that have happened, and we obsess over things, and we want to release that stuff. And if we're thinking about other people and we've got the blame game going on, it's a mistake also, because whatever is happening within us is really always about us. So if you're not exactly living your best life yet, you might need to summon up a little bit more willingness. We might have to develop a little bit more courage to challenge our thought processes. And we want to have the courage to change. So we want to challenge our messaging that we have to ourselves. If we pause, and that's part of the secret, if we learn to slow it down a little bit, we can pause and reflect. And then we won't react so much. And the question would be, who would you be if you weren't reacting to everything? Who would you be if you weren't being offended? Who would you be if you weren't being hurt so much? So much time we spend in reaction to one another, our friends, our parents, our teachers. We react to people often. And we've gotten to a point in society where oftentimes we're not even listening to anyone anymore because we're always reacting. And the question is, who would we be if we were a little bit more centered? Who would we be if we were not reacting as much? I'm going to tell you one thing you would be. You'd be happier. You'd be much happier. Let me throw out a question. What would it be like if you focused more? Maybe, I go out to eat quite a bit, and I see everybody having dinner with their significant others, and they're staring into their phones. And I don't get it, because New York City is a very expensive city to go out to dinner. You'd be better off if you just forgot to, take out or something, right? Who would you be if you were more focused on the people you're spending time with, where you put down your device and actually spoke to one another and listened to one another? What would it be like to be that empowered? Where you begin to live in a world where you don't react to stuff, where you can be okay with people however they are, where you have nothing to say, where you realize that they're all doing the best they can. When you take these pauses that we talk about and you reflect, you can say, look, I refuse to be offended. They're doing the best they can. This is none of my business. I could see peace instead of any of this. Who would you be if you had no need to correct anybody anymore? See, I see a lot of people trying to correct people all over the place. Who would you be if you had no need to do that? So you get to be that kind of person that's not reactive, if you want to be. What you dwell upon and what you think about is creating your life. Or if you're using social media, what you're tweeting about and posting all day long is creating your life. So all this new language about tweeting, talking amuses me a little bit, but it comes back to some central ideas. When you establish peace within, when you're working this teaching, knowing that there's only God, there's God and God, God and good, good and God. When you establish this reality, when you know that the truth is that you live, move, and have your being in this divine substance, and you're learning to live the affirmative life, knowing that everyone is doing the best they can, then nothing and no one really bothers you too much anymore. Because you realize all is well. All is well with you and all is well in the world. And you realize that people are really, people are evoluting. They're doing the best they can. And when you establish kindness within your own mind, your own heart, your own being, you really can't act any other way in the outside world, because that's who you are. That's who you've become. The last little piece, there's a couple more pieces here. Don't wait for the world to change. Don't wait for other people to do something before you're going to be nice. When you change your mind about the world and see the good that's in everyone, things are going to change for you. It's real easy to do it the other way, like most people do, about what's wrong and what's missing in the world, and be a chronic complainer. It's not very enlightened, but it's real easy. I was told some 35, 40 years ago that religious science people are the applauders of life. So we're the cheerleaders. Those of us who really get this teaching and the possibilities, we don't have the time for the pain. We don't have the time. We really don't want to be a part of that, honestly. So we're here to say yes and good job, and I have released the need to correct anybody. People are evolving. Life is brief. I want to live in joy. How about you? As we practice this teaching, we can learn to fall in love with life. We observe its beauty unfolding everywhere and in everyone, and we know that it's responding to us. For those of us who are learning to live the affirmative life and are challenging ourselves to see the good in all, we're here to see the God, the good. It's our very practice to see the good in the God and to release and let go of negativity. However it shows up in our life, it's our job to let it go. Release fear, doubt, and insecurity into the nothingness from whence it came. Why would you let yourself get off track reacting to stuff that just doesn't even exist within the mind of God? So ours is a solitary path. We do our work in consciousness and mind. In his book, In Tune with the Infinite, again, Waldo Emerson, over 133 years ago, said, we're born into a strange time, a time that tries our souls. I think it's the same with us now as it was then. We're born into a world where there's a lot of stuff going on. But that stuff, you don't have to act or react to any of it. Once you give your attention to it, I've been saying for many years, at least for several decades, everything's perfect. Everything's unfolding, perfect time, all the time. Another thing I've been saying for as many years is this is God in my life. No matter what it is, it's still God in my life. And I get all these things from coming to the teaching, from remembering the teaching, and from the book You Can Heal Your Life and the Science of Mind, when Louise Hay used to say, all is well. She knew all kinds of things were going on around her, but she was well because, in fact, everything is fine. And so it's fine with all of us. And it will be fine for you if you have the consciousness to realize everything is fine, where you refuse to be disturbed by any person, place, or thing, where you know that everything is evolving and in the perfect place, perfect time, and all the time. So I'll close with this. This is a time to summon whatever courage we have. This is a time to summon whatever faith we have and practice that faith, knowing we're supplied and supported in every way. We'll come through this day, and all days we'll rise in a way that may surprise even us if we have this kind of confidence and faith, and in such a way where others who dwell in fear can never rise. We need to be confident. We need to take bold steps ourselves to help ourselves. It takes a little bit of effort to love yourself and to let go of all the stories, because there's a whole bunch of stuff inside of us. We have a history with ourselves and others, but we can do it. And that's a good place to stop, with just saying with certainty, we can do this. And so it is.